Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Today, we are going to be starting Unit 5 in our first grade Journeys unit. So welcome to day 1 of Unit 5. We're starting with Lesson 21. So today, we are going to learn our new high frequency words for this lesson. And we are also going to read a story about Frog and Toad. Many of you probably know Frog and Toad. I'm sure you've read other stories about them before. And if you haven't, and this is your first one, this will be a nice introduction to Frog and Toad. There are many stories about them, and they're great books to read. So let's get started. All right, everybody. So here we are at Unit 5, Lesson 21. We are going to be introduced to our new high frequency words. We'll be studying them this week, and you will also see them in the story that you're going to read later about Frog and Toad. So here are the words: few, night, loudly, window, noise, story, shall, and world. I gave you a copy of this, so you have this printed out so you can always reference your words of the week. Here they are in your book. And let's look at these now one by one, and we'll read each sentence. Number 1, few. There are only a few trees here. Number 2, night. The buds open in the day and close at night. Number 3, loudly. The bird sang loudly in the tree. 4, the big tree is very close to the window. 5, noise. I heard a noise in the garden. And guys, we did this last week. What is our prepositional phrase here? In the garden. And what is the preposition? In. He tells a story about planting trees. Number 7, shall. We shall pick apples today. Number 8, world. My garden is the best place in the world. Okay, so we're going to read them one more time again. You please say them out loud with me. Ready? Few, night, loudly, window, noise, story, shall, and world. All right, so moving on, we are going to read The Garden from Frog and Toad Together. So Frog and Toad Together is a book, but it's made up of various chapters. So this is one of the chapters, or one of the mini books within the book Frog and Toad Together. What grows in a garden? That is the question. Now, before we read, let's preview the topic. It says, to make a garden grow, you start with seeds. You plant them in the soil. Then you take care of them. You make sure they have enough water and sunlight. Soon, the seeds will start to grow. Tiny plants will pop up in the soil. They will get bigger. Soon, you will have big plants with flowers or vegetables. Next, you will read a story about what happens when a character named Toad plants some seeds in the garden. All right, let's get to reading. Okay, so let's begin. Meet the author and illustrator, Arnold Lobel. Arnold Lobel started drawing when he was a child. When he grew up, he wrote and illustrated almost 100 books for children. His books won many awards. Frog and Toad have even been in a Broadway musical. So the genre of this story is fantasy. A fantasy is a story that could not happen in real life, right? We've read many fantasy stories so far this year, and the things that we always look for are animals who talk and act like people in events that could not really happen in real life. And remember, fantasy is a type of fiction. It is made up. The Garden from Frog and Toad Together by Arnold Lobel. And the question is, what grows in a garden? Frog was in his garden. Toad came walking by. What a fine garden you have, Frog, he said. Yes, said Frog, it is very nice, but it was hard work. I wish I had a garden, said Toad. Here are some flower seeds. Plant them in the ground, said Frog, and soon you will have a garden. How soon? Asked Toad. Quite soon, said Frog. Toad ran home. He planted the flower seeds. Now, seeds, said Toad, start growing. Toad walked up and down a few times. The seeds did not start to grow. Toad put his head close to the ground and said loudly, now, seeds, start growing. Toad looked at the ground again. The seeds did not start to grow. Toad put his head very close to the ground and shouted, now, seeds, start growing. Frog came running up the path. What is all this noise? He asked. My seeds will not grow, said Toad. You are shouting too much, said Frog. These poor seeds are afraid to grow. My seeds are afraid to grow? Asked Toad. Of course, said Frog. Leave them alone for a few days. Let the sun shine on them. Let the rain fall on them. Soon your seeds will start to grow. That night, Toad looked out of his window. Drat, said Toad. My seeds have not started to grow. They must be afraid of the dark. Toad went out to his garden with some candles. I will read the seeds a story, said Toad. Then they will not be afraid. Toad read a long story to his seeds. All the next day, Toad sang songs to his seeds, and all the next day, Toad read poems to his seeds, and all the next day, Toad played music for his seeds. Toad looked at the ground. The seeds still did not start to grow. What shall I do? Cried Toad. These must be the most frightened seeds in the whole world. Then Toad felt very tired, and he fell asleep. Toad, Toad, wake up, said Frog. Look at your garden. Toad looked at his garden. Little green plants were coming up out of the ground. At last, shouted Toad, my seeds have stopped being afraid to grow, and now you will have a nice garden too, said Frog. Yes, said Toad, but you were right, Frog. It was very hard work. All right, everybody, so that was Frog and Toad. Now it is time to discuss what you need to do on your own. It is time for your notebooks. So I will put this screen back up again at the end so that you can copy this into your notebooks. But the first thing that you are going to do is copy your high frequency words into your notebooks. So please remember, get your spelling spiral notebooks out. Go to spelling and high frequency words number 20. Once you have it open in front to page 20 or the list 20, flip the page, leave 2 blank pages, flip the page again, and on the left page, the first page, you will write HFW number 21. And please list your these 8 words and remember to skip lines. I have put these in alphabetical order for you. Okay, after that, you are going to do one workbook page, page 79. You probably can't see this very well, but it says words to know on the top. You are just going to circle the correct high frequency word to complete the sentence. It should not take you any more than 2 or 3 minutes. After that, please write 1 sentence for each high frequency word. This I would like for your parents to send to me. I included that in the instructions today. So please write a complete sentence for each word. Remember, capital letter in the beginning of the sentence, spaces between words, write neatly, and appropriate punctuation. So if it is a statement or a command, put a period at the end. If it is a question, it needs a question mark. If it is a compound sentence, it gets a comma in there, right between the 2 shorter sentences before the conjunction. All right, so that's it. It is time to take your notebooks out, open to the page that we talked about, and you can get started. You can pause the screen now so that you can copy and write these words down, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.